But I don't think he did. I don't think he did justice to this, because think about the Washington Post and the New York Times leaking this. Why would they leak this? The only reason that they're leaking this is to put Sessions in that box, to paint him in that corner. The optics are everything in this.
Well, what would be the problem of firing him, taking away his benefits, and then still indicting him? Or do you think that this is just it's purely a PR move at this point? Why they leaked it in order to have Sessions fire him to make him look like the bad guy?
Okay,
and nothing comes later.
Yeah. If I were Sessions and I'm sitting on my desk and this happens, and praise God, I'm not Sessions. And I know a lot of you out there saying, yeah, you wouldn't make a good attorney general, but by forcing him, seemingly forcing him into one of those two decisions, to me, is if he reacts to either one of those decisions, he's playing by their rules. I'm not saying do nothing. Maybe put him on, maybe call him in Friday at 4:45 and say, you know what? We're going to put you on terminal leave. Remember that phrase? Kind of hang him in, put him in suspended animation for a while. You can do that as a federal employee. In other words, somewhat in that, look, there are ways administratively. And I spoke to an FBI agent today within the Beltway. And there is, at that level, there is a method, a way, a manner where you could actually kind of stop the employment time clock, put him on like a suspended kind of, I don't even know what they call it, but hold him off and make him comply with terminal or with administrative actions. And after that's all said and done, then indict him. But for crying out loud, don't play by the deep state rules. Don't be forced into that position. Do something. And I would even go, if I was Sessions, I would even go so far as to make a statement saying, here are my plans. And at least paint the picture of some forward movement, as opposed to saying, well, we're, can't comment on ongoing investigations. Or indict them on the 4:45 on Friday if you've got the evidence. And my goodness, you should.
Yeah, they should.
But I wanted to throw that out there. And I know you've got a lot of things to get into, but I thought that was something that's making the rounds right now. But you're watching this unfold in real time. Again, the Ides of March, that sentiment, the Shakespearean tragedy playing out before our very eyes. You've got Sessions, you've got Donald Trump, you've got Donald Trump warring with a deep state. You've got the optics of Sessions being a Keebler elf. I don't like that. I think that's insulting, obviously. But many people call him that, and I don't like that. I don't think that's classy to do that. So, regardless of his job performance. Now, having said that, I think he must act, but not by the rules of the deep state. So that's what I want to say about that. And I've got a few other things, but we can
branching off that.
Yeah,
let's look at what's going on with the bombshell news coming out of the offices of Special Counsel Robert Mueller today, who has subpoenaed the Trump Organization as part of his ongoing Russian collusion investigation. And I don't know who the guest on Sean Hannity's show was on the way to the studio today, but I'm just going to steal what he said. They are recycling old news stories. The Trump Organization has been handing over documents to the Mueller office for months now, willingly, whenever they're asked. And somehow this is supposed to be big news that Mueller is subpoenaing all the information from the Trump Organization related to his business with Russia. Now, what's interesting about this is Robert Mueller, again, stepping outside the scope of his mandate, is not looking for collusion between Trump and Russia in the 2016 presidential election. From what I understand, the materials that he is asking for pertain to Donald Trump's business relationships with entities in Russia stemming to well before he was president. Now, this presents a problem. We saw last week or earlier this week how the scope of the investigation was expanded by looking to a statute. I believe it's a statute, the conspiracy to defraud the United States government, which would allow Mueller to charge President Trump without an underlying crime. But now we see this is being reported in the news media as though it is some kind of, major breaking news story, which again, I'll repeat from what Haley Show said.
Though, but
this is a recycled news story. But basically, they're rehyping information that has already been well known and has already been made public and has been ongoing for months now, and repackaging it as some sort of new attack by Robert Mueller on President Trump. But it is nothing of the sort. And from everything I've read, the Trump organization pushed back and even issued a statement saying as much, saying that there's nothing new here. We've already been turning over documents for months now since this special counsel was impaneled. So really nothing to see here. It's just more of the same. The one story I find interesting from the Drudge Report is Mueller's choice of witness. And this is from the Sacramento Bee. Mueller witness is a convicted pedophile with a shady past. How did George Nader, a Lebanese-American businessman, globe-trotting fixer, convicted child molester, get caught up in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation? The answer, it seems, can be found in the shadows where Nader has long operated.
Yep.
His long history included back-channel mediation between Israel and Arab countries and a 15-year-old pedophilia conviction in Europe that has not been previously reported. But Mueller, in his investigation of President Donald Trump, his campaign, and possible wrongdoing connected to Russia, is focused on Nader's role in two high-level get-togethers after the presidential election, according to three people familiar with the case. Nader was caught in Mueller's web a few days before the anniversary of Trump's inauguration. He was transiting through Dulles International Airport outside Washington on his way to Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort when his plans changed.
Whoops. Look, I've got to say this. The more research I do, when you mention stories like this, the more it compels me to look at the executive order from 12/21 of 17. The
assets.
The civil asset forfeiture. And it's not just about the civil asset forfeiture. We could do, and I'm convinced we could do perhaps an entire program on that alone. The more I look into this, the more I look at the reach and the what's taking place and the fallout from this. Remember, you saw a lot of upwardly mobile people, to use a yuppie phrase, and the top 1/10 of the 1% make some changes right after that happened, and even leading up to it, if you look close enough. I think that has some long arms. I think that EO has got some long arms. I'm referring to the executive order, or I say executive order is more of an executive action. There is a difference with a distinction here that was written and published on December 21st of 2017. So,
well, this is just this whole thing about this Nader guy is really strange, and his involvement with the Trump campaign is kind of cloudy. Apparently, Nader joined a meeting at New York Trump Tower in December of 2016 that brought together presidential son-in-law Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon.
Yeah, but one thing I want to say real quick. I can guarantee you, if I was in a position, or if any one of you listening or viewing this, listening, you're going to go to parties, you're going to be at events where there are going to be people, you don't even have a clue who they are. And they could be, mass murderers, for crying out loud. You're not going to know who they are. And I've been at conferences where somebody said, "Did you know who was here?" And no, well, so-and-so was here. And it wasn't flattering.
That's what this seems like. Long story short, this guy works as an advisor to one of the most powerful men in the Middle East. And he was setting up a meeting that was with Kushner and Bannon and this guy. And this Middle Eastern man is named Bin Zayed, one of the most powerful men in the Middle East, according to people who know Nader. The questioning of Nader in the Mueller probe suggests possible interest in the United Arab Emirates relations with Trump's transition team or his administration. And again, we've said this so many times, it's basically, I don't even know why we have to continue to repeat ourselves, except for maybe new listeners or people who have not been paying attention. But this political witch hunt, which is being conducted by Robert Mueller and the special counsel, has gone so far off the train tracks. If you all remember, this was supposed to be a special prosecutor put together in place for finding out the potential collusion between Trump, Russia, and the Russians' interference in the 2016 presidential election. Not only has Robert Mueller only charged people like General Flynn with process crimes and Manafort with crimes that had nothing to do with the campaign and had everything to do with financial and business dealings from 2012. And Manafort only worked on the Trump campaign for 3 months. We see how far off the reservation Mueller has gone. It's no longer collusion, which is where it started. It's no longer obstruction of justice, which is where it went. Now it's, possible money laundering, and has nothing to do with anything that President Trump has been doing since his campaign and inauguration and presidency. And even when it does things like this, where you're talking about, having meetings put together for a incumbent or sitting president, and
you got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me.
Celebrate friendship and beyond during the first ever Pixar Fest with the all-new Pixar-themed fireworks spectacular and your favorite park parades. Celebrate from April 13th through September 3rd, only at Disneyland Resort. Visit Disneyland.com for details.
There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. You've got a friend in me.
Entertainment subject to change without notice.
And they make it seem and appear that it is criminal. They have demonized Russia in the news media to the point where, having dinner with a Russian is now tantamount to treason just by default. And it is a very toxic environment, and it has everything to do with what we see happening with the tensions between Russia and Western nations, even increasing today. And we're going to talk about this, about how Trump imposed sanctions on Russia today. Also, there is rising tensions between world leaders in the West and Putin after the death of an anti-Putin man in Britain from poisoning, the second such death in just a few days. And we're going to unpack all this on the other side. You're listening to the Hagmann Report. We're going to be coming back with a half hour of news. Then next hour, Charlie Brandt, I Heard You Paint Houses. He's going to be joining us as his book was picked up for a movie by Martin Scorsese. Then we're going to be taken out by Keith Hansen, followed by Dane Wigington. So we got a full show. Don't go anywhere.
And this is the Hagmann Report for today. It's the 15th day of March, 2018. It seems like January. When is this snow going to stop? I want to ask Dane Wigington that. It seems like climate engineering, geoengineering is doing something. Actually, I think we're about 8 or 9 inches, 8 inches away from an all-time record of 200 inches. What is that, 16 feet? I mean, it's incredible, the amount of snow we've had, but you didn't tune in for a weather report. A couple of things. Watch this, because a Victoria Nuland, her, former State Department official, implicated in the deep state conspiracy to delegitimize President Donald Trump, and we're going to be talking about that shortly. But before we do, folks, I want to welcome our sponsor, eHarmony, eHarmony.com. I got to tell you something. At the same time we were talking to eHarmony about how they do things, my neighbor's son, I found out that he met his current girlfriend via eHarmony, and it's now, I think, 6 months at least, if not 7 months, going strong. But let me ask you this: if you're out there, you're listening to news headlines, maybe you're alone. Do you really want to be alone? I think there's, in my view, there is somebody for everybody. You can find your soulmate out there. I really, truly believe that. I found my wife, my soulmate. My wife is my soulmate, but I want you to have that too. And if you're trying online dating, for example, it's a very good chance you run into this endless stream of, lazy text messages, dead-end conversations, random matches that don't even turn into dates. And you can't get to know someone just by looking at their picture. And I've talked with my neighbor's son, and He's had just tremendous experiences with eHarmony. But folks, I want you to consider this.